All right, glad to be joined today by Coach Adam Griffin. Coach is the head boys basketball coach at Wesleyan. Coach, thanks for joining me.
Chris, I'm happy to be here. I appreciate you reaching out. I'm looking forward to talking some coaching with you.
Yeah, we were talking before we came on about, what we're trying to do, and this is not a knock on what anybody else is doing, but we're trying to use this time to focus on a lot of stuff that build confidence, build kids playing hard, kids playing with confidence, kids playing fast. And I would like it to be stuff that was applicable to soccer, softball, baseball, basketball, football, boys, girls, whatever. And so I'm excited to talk about this topic because we're talking about total program development, which can really mean a lot of different things. But I know we're going to specifically talk about how we develop a kid from a little tiny guy into a guy that plays for you on Tuesdays and Fridays with the varsity. And I just think that is something that we're missing out on, looking for these magic offenses and these magic defenses. And they all work. They're all good. I love to talk X and O's, by the way. I just think that there's so many of them. We spend too much time worrying about that and not just enough talking about the things that we can do to make our team better. And program development's one of them. So I just appreciate this topic, and I appreciate you being willing to talk about this topic. So before we get started, we're recording this, and there'll be people from all over watching this. So tell them a little bit about you, how you got your start, where you are now, a little bit about what your school's like, and all that.
Sure. Let's see. I think this is year 16 for me in coaching and teaching. Got my start a long time ago out at Loganville High School, working for a guy named David Allen, who's the head coach at Mill Creek these days, and was an incredible mentor. Still keep touch with him from there. Went from there was the head coach at Dunwoody, and then ended up at Wesleyan. My wife and I, we also have a small business in our family, so we were kind of balancing starting a business and trying to be a head coach. I actually stepped down at Dunwoody so we could kind of handle being the parents of little ones, like with a newborn and with a small business. And then a year later, my high school coach was the head coach at Wesleyan, called me up, said, "Hey, you want to come and work here?" And I took the job offer up and was his assistant for a couple of years. And he came in the office one day and said, "Hey, you're in charge." And that's kind of how I got to where I'm at right now. We switched spots. He's got sons that are rising, will be a senior in our program next year, and one that'll be a freshman. And just a combination of having some really great people in my life, and both the coaching side, and then obviously lessons from coaches I've had and coaches I've worked for, and working with great educators. And so, I mean, that's how I've been fortunate enough to end up at a great place like Wesleyan. Wesleyan's just under 500 kids, private school in Peachtree Corners, so right outside of Atlanta. Christian school, right across, like where Norcross High is. We're right across the street from Norcross High. So had a lot of success there as a basketball program. They won a couple of state championships back in 08 and 2010. And I'm really happy to continue to build on a program culture and a program success and history that is it's pretty successful in its first 20 years, and hopefully we'll continue to do more and more.
Yeah, I think, what we're going to talk about today with program development are kind of some core values that we did when I studied several topics to kind of make these things. And with this topic, we found several core values that were true for all teams. But I did feel the need to quantify, when we were talking to someone about this, what sport they coached, what school size they had, how their teams were set up. I don't think it changes the core value, but I think you just put in perspective. So we kind of put that question first before we talk about everything. So you kind of told us a little bit about your school, but how are your teams set up below the varsity level right now?
So we have what we've done since I've got there. We have 7th and 8th grade are two separate official school teams. So that's the first time we have a formal tryout. But below that, we have had 5th and 6th grade club teams where, outside of just having so much interest that it becomes, we have more kids than we have space for, which we've been fortunate to have a lot of interest. We've got about, on average, 40 or 50 kids per grade, boys per grade. So We've had as many as, 2 years ago, we had 32 of the 56 graders all playing in the league on
Wow.
3 different teams. Fifth grade, it's usually a couple of teams. So we've had, a couple teams, at least 2 teams, fifth and sixth grade, sometimes 3 teams, sixth grade. The sixth graders have played in a league. We've
It's
actually
just a clinic.
at Wesleyan on the weekends. And then all the way down, literally all the way down to kindergartens. We have a K through 4, fourth grade. We split them into 2 groups, K through first and second, and then third and fourth grade separate. Developmental skills group that's about 90 minutes, and that's every single Saturday morning. So we literally have them all in the gym starting November, by at least the first weekend of November, all the way through January, kindergarten through 12th graders.
That's awesome, Coach. That's great. Fantastic. I know everybody that listens to this doesn't have that. And
Sure.
I know, and that's okay too, because some people just have, I was the head football coach at a school where we got pieces of 3 different middle schools. One time I was, not the most recently. But in that case, we had to really worry about 9th grade and JV. I mean, that was, that was it for us. We had to have good relationships with those younger levels, but we didn't have it. So I don't want anybody to turn this off or be discouraged if they don't have that kind of relationship with kids. What I want to talk about is, regardless if you're talking about taking a kid from JV to varsity, or if you're talking about taking them from kindergarten to varsity, then I think, based on studying and researching and whatever, these are the 7 things I came up with that I thought the best places have. So if you even if you just have a 9th grade and a JV, or if you have all the way down to elementary school, focus on saying, how many of these things are we doing? What are we doing well in these, and what can we do better? So, that's my question to you for basically the rest of this time we talk.
Sure.
But it's, it should be their question to themselves and I think it is true for football and basketball and baseball. I think for boys and girls, I don't think there's a whole lot of variance. There may be a little, but I don't think there's a whole lot of variance on keeping them playing the next year. Get the best quality athletes you can get out, making it positive and fun. That's all stuff that's going to be true regardless. So what do you guys do? My question would be, to start with that, is, what do you guys do? And you can go down that list, or you can pick a few of them, or however you want to do it, to foster these qualities.
I think the biggest thing is, I would say of the 7 things you've got listed, I would think the ones, and when you sent this into me a little bit before, I think the biggest thing is, it's about, number one thing would be showing you have an actual investment in that total program. I think some of it's just putting the time in, being visible. I'm there when we were dividing up the 5th and 6th grade teams. I'm there at 7th and 8th grade tryouts. I'm checking in with the 7th and 8th grade teams. I would love to watch our middle school teams play more, but I also make sure I'm doing the most important job, which is being a dad. So a lot of times I don't see as much of our middle school as I would like, but with our flexibility, I literally can go have lunch with the kids. So I'll go down during middle school lunch and check in with them. We've got great teachers and coaches that help out with our kindergarten through 4th graders, but our girls coach and I literally designed the programming for them. So they're running kind of what we want them to do, everything from skills we want them working on, but how to make it fun. So I think number one is, you have to show those kids, if you want to, even go after, how do you keep them playing? How do you keep the best kids out there, and how do you keep them there? Show them that you're invested in their success, and it's not just because they might one day be a good basketball player.
Right. I care about them as a person. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta have a relationship with these kids. You want the kids to be there. Then show them that basketball is a tiny part of that relationship that you have with them, because especially with a sport like basketball, by the time they get to their 9th or 10th grade year, you're going to have in our world, we don't have a 9th grade team. We have a JV and a varsity. So you're going to have 5 or 6 kids per grade playing for you. So what's that kid going to think if you played with you in 7th grade and maybe he doesn't make your 9th grade team, and then you don't say 2 words to that kid in the hall the next 4 years because he's not serving you anymore. He's not a part of your program. So, are you really being relational with those kids all the way down, and, just get an idea? And it doesn't have to necessarily just be me, but it's also having the right kind of people in your program that are going to have those values and are going to, they're going to have a positive experience in basketball program their whole time they're involved.
Yeah, and I think, it's important to understand, in basketball especially, you guys are a small private school, and across the street there's a 3,000 kid school. and they only got 5 kids per grade playing too, by the way. Like,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when they get to 12th grade, they probably got 5, 6 seniors on the team. So, and that's one of the things that I guess, depending on how you want to look at it, but I think it's kind of cool about basketball. You're going to get down to that small number no matter where you start. Where sometimes in football, Norcross may have 40 seniors and you guys might have 8 or something. In
Mm-hmm.
basketball, it's really not true. You're going to have relatively the same numbers. So, but you don't get to pick from as many people as they do. So it's very important you develop those kids. And, and so I completely agree, Coach. What do y'all do to make it as positive and fun as possible for the kids?
I think the biggest thing we want to make it is you want to make it positive and fun. I think start off, make sure they're playing, make sure they're competing and playing games. Make it as much of a games-based model as you can, all the way down to the little guys. I mean, obviously, yeah, they got to learn how to dribble and they got to learn how to shoot and all that kind of stuff. But if you're making it, they can. If you know what you're doing, you should be able to have it be games-based, especially with those young age. We try to make that a really games and competition based, but stuff that's fun, keeping them engaged, because you're talking about 90 minutes with 5-year-olds trying to get them to play basketball. But I think and we really tell them that we don't want to bring in cuts and things like that until they're in 7th grade anyway. And I'd love to keep more in 7th grade than we are able to. But sometimes we just run into an amount of gym space, and we'll run into just a number of jerseys. So
about how many people do y'all keep in the 7th and 8th grade team, Coach?
We keep about 12 or 13 kids per team. I mean, just kind of that standard number.
Mm-hmm.
We're really, I mean, like when you talk about fortunate, we have 4 gyms on campus, 3 that we have access to. One's really tied to our lower school. So, we're fortunate to be able to have 7th through 12th grade all practice right when school gets out, because, and they don't practice middle school doesn't practice every day. But they get a week of basketball, and then they're always going to play something on a Saturday as well. So, but I think that's the biggest thing, is just tell them it's about this is what should be fun, but in the same time, it's not kind of goofing around fun all the time. I mean, there's times for that too, but it's about like the fun of competition, especially as they start to kind of get in latter elementary school and 5th and 6th and things like that. So competing can be fun. So I think that's a big understanding, because that's the word we talk about more than anything, is compete. So if you can start instilling that older elementary into middle school, and then when they get for your 7th grade coaches, for us, the other side of that too is you got to have the right guys working with 7th and 8th graders, because that's a special kind of patience that I have.
Yep.
I couldn't be more fortunate than to have the guys I have running our program down in 7th and 8th grade. They just have a heart for working with those kind of kids, and they want to teach the game, and they hold them to the same standard that I hold our varsity kids to, and whether that's playing hard or shot selection or attitude and all that stuff, but they know how to do it when you're dealing with a 12-year-old versus a 17 or 18-year-old.
No, exactly. And, when we said the next thing, which was caring about the total program, the key there would be, does that coach that helps your 5th and 6th grade genuinely care that you guys win on a Friday, in a region game? And it's not about them saying they do, it's does he actually care? Like, is there a vested interest? And vice versa. I think that's a two-way street, that you as a head coach have to care about that they're successful at that age too. And, and the best programs all had that, when we were studying it. I know you guys have that. There's not much of a question.
Kids, listen,
Yeah.
No, I mean, no, it's all right. I think, with our 5th and 6th grade guys, we get, as much as it's competing, we also really constantly talk to them about 5th through 8th grade really is about development. We kind of try to throw them to the wolves a little bit. We play in a middle school league where we are consistently the smallest school in the league. We're going to have less kids. Some of the teams in that league are actually kind of, because they come from some of the private schools that don't have middle school. So they're basically club teams. I'm not going to call them AAU, but they're able to, they're able to kind of hand pick who they have. So we tell our guys all the time, like, listen, you're going to play against schools that have 700-800 kids, 1,000 kids in the high school, whereas we're going to have 500. You're going to have they're gonna be a little bit, they're gonna have a bigger pool to pull from. So this is about competing, but also about developing. And so it's not about you're on this team for whatever, because you earned your spot, or because you, as a younger age, you were interested and you came and you were committed. So just keep getting better. Like what you look like in November and what you look like in February should look different. So, I think the other side of that is that perseverance part of it that we want to start really getting them to understand, to be resilient. We're going to have you play against bigger and stronger teams. So we want you to be successful, but I think it's also them understanding, like, there's a way. Success is not exclusive to wins and losses, especially with those younger guys. That's what we need to model for them, what success looks like.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Coach. Amen. The next thing was be there for all kids. And that came from a few different conversations I had on trying to make this list. And in some cases, that might be that you got a really good dad coaching at a youth level, and they're there for their kid, and they're actually doing a good job, but they're really there for their kid. They can be there for their kid. That's okay. But they got to be there for all the kids. But that also can mean, if you're coach, especially at the middle school, but even JV and ninth grade, even if people listen to this and they really have a JV and a ninth grade team they're focused on, be there for all the kids, because you really don't know which kid is going to sprout up different, and it just might not, it might be the fourth best kid in the grade might end up being the best kid in the grade, but when you're in the fifth grade, he was the fourth or fifth best guy on the team. Now he's the first, or maybe the 10th one becomes the fourth best, and that's the one you really could have run off if you weren't careful. So, tell us a little bit about what you guys do to kind of foster that.
I think when I talk about with those coaches, especially with our, the ones that I'm really putting my hands on, and it's dads for us. We've got volunteer. We've had some, maybe we have an alumni who's come and helped out, but we've also had just some dads. And I outline everything from, like, here's our expectations of what practice looks to look like. I'm going to get you 90 minutes a day, 2 days a week, so you got 3 hours of practice time. You're going to play a game or two in the week. What does that practice want to look like? So that's, if you're going to be there for all your kids, it's also about getting those coaches to understand that, hey, I need you to be really intentional about your time with those kids and that 3 hours a week that you have them with practice. But I think being there for as much as those kids is figure out what's important to those guys. Like, look, not every single kid in my program is basketball's his biggest priority when it comes to athletics. None of them. I hope none of them that basketball is their biggest priority. I hope their priorities in order, and that basketball or football or baseball has an appropriate place in their life. But we want you've got the one kid who's had a basketball in his hand since he was 3, and he was dribbling and with his dad on the back porch. And we got the kid who, like you said, is newer to the game. And when it's all said and done, when they're 17 and 18 years old, who knows which one of them is going to be their better player. But at the same time, being there, knowing that, hey, I'm there with them, because I'm there at Friday night, standing at the 20-yard line, right at the edge of the coach's box, cheering on my football kids. And I need them to know that I'm as invested in their success on a Friday night as in the middle of September as I am on a Friday night in the middle of January. And
Absolutely.
And not only that, but I want them to be honest with me about what their goals are. I got a kid that is a freshman in college that played for us, who was a very, very good soccer player. And we knew that he was going to have a couple of times in and around Christmas where he would have opportunities to get, because kind of the big recruiting season for college soccer is smack in the middle of basketball season. And, I told that kid and his father numerous times, go, like, you need to have this opportunity. Yeah, you're going to miss 2 games over a Christmas tournament. All right. Like, that means you'll sit out a quarter or whatever we decide the next time you come back. But why in the world am I going to get in the way of that kid having the opportunity to play college soccer? And when I mean be there for you, I'm going to be there for you, and I'm going to be there for you in all of that stuff, because the only reason I'm there for you is because you're 6'5" and have a good jump shot, man. I'm really not doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Right. That's right. Absolutely, Coach. If the next thing's talking about teaching fundamentals, and we're kind of going to gloss over that one because it's so obvious. I mean, obviously, at whatever level whatever sport you're playing, it needs to be about fundamentals of the game. at that level. But I want to talk about this last one that says build on the year before, because one of the things I said a lot when I was coaching was I used to use this phrase, we had a bunch of 1-year experiences, that we had some guys that were great and they built. And then as a high school coach, I'd tell the guys sometimes it felt like we had a senior that didn't have a 4-year tenure with us. He had 4 1-year experiences, and they just don't get any better and they don't build on the year before. And I don't know. And so that phrase stood out to me when I was talking to people about total program development, is how we could build from 1 year to the next. So it's really important that kid puts the basketball up in February, but he doesn't pick it back up in November and have forgotten everything. There has to be some element of either him keep playing in the off season, or at least he kind of picks up where he left off and doesn't go back and have to start back over. And does that make sense what I'm saying? We saw that a lot in football. I don't know if we see it a lot in basketball where kids it's just like they've forgotten everything you told them the year before. You had to start all over with them every year.
Sure.
And the best teams didn't do that.
I think we've had to strike a balance with that, because I've had kids, whether it's the kid I referenced who was the soccer player, or the kids who are baseball first kids, and some we've had in our program who are elite, draftable kind of kids, where their summer is going to be playing. I can't even begin to count how many baseball games.
Yeah, hundreds.
So us, at high school level, obviously you got your summer ball in June. But for us, we're doing camps in the summer, but we'll run camps in June and stuff. But with our middle school age kids, we'll just run open gym. We'll just say, look, I'll reach out to parents and we'll just open the gym up, and I'll have everything from kids that are returning off of our 7th grade team, so kind of the kids that you assume are going to comprise our 8th grade team, all the way up from our alumni who were college players, or just, guys who are, did their careers that have played for us, that are, whether they've played for me at other schools or Wesleyan, that are pros. We'll get them all in the gym, and we'll just say, listen, I'm going to open up the gym for a couple hours. And, number one, I won't lie to you, there's a part of it of I need you to see what the next level looks like.
Mm-hmm.
Like if this is something you are going to be serious about, and this is something that you have as a goal, because, like we said, you're only going to have 5 or 6 kids by the time they're juniors and seniors. So they need to, there's the summer pickup stuff we do in July every year. Man, that is a great visual of the bottleneck of basketball, where, hey, yeah, there's 13 of you there's 30 of you in 6th grade. Then all of a sudden there's 13 of you, 12 of you in 7th grade. Same thing for 8th grade. And then all of a sudden you're down to 6 or 7. And then all of a sudden you're down to 5. And it's like, hey, if I really want to do this, I hope that we have a relationship with that kid too, where we can say, hey, I love that you love these 2 sports or these 3 sports, but hey, those 5 guys you see out there, they're the rising seniors. Watch how they play. Look how good they are. Look how they've taken care of their bodies. Look how they play together. Look how hard they play. And we're playing pickup in July. So that's one of the ways we really work to build on the year before is having that community, that they're there together, and that our varsity kids, and I think that's a big deal, is my varsity kids know the kids on the 7th grade team. Like, they know them. They care about them. They in the halls. They go to their games. We work it out where the varsity kids are camped out behind the 7th and the 8th grade bench, and they're cheering. They're the loudest people in the gym. They're louder than mama. And so there's an investment in it, but then I think that also makes it contagious, where those kids want to build on the year before, and to a point they realize, like, if they don't build on it, there's going to be an expiration date to this.
Right. And that's a great answer. And that's what it is. If you don't build on it, you can only get so much better. I mean, that's just the reality. What traits do you look for in a coach on a team that's below the varsity level, that even a JV coach all the way down to your middle school, 5th, 6th grade, whatever?
Number one thing is, man, do not get caught up in wins and losses. Like, you just can't. And I say that I want to win and I want those teams to win. But if that coach is putting the short-term goal of winning a couple extra games and shortcutting fundamental growth in order to get that, so whether that be a junk defense that anybody who's ever been involved with the basketball knows will never work at the varsity level, because you just, kids get too good to use it, or whether it is we just force feed the one kid that had the first growth spurt, so this one kid gets 30 touches a game and the rest of the team gets 20 touches combined. That's the first thing is you better really be about growing every one of these kids. We're going to teach competitiveness. We're not here to lose, but we're going to win, but we're going to win by developing, and we're going to win by having, and for us, we have a system. Our without, like you said, we're not really good on the X's and O's, but we press the whole game. So 10, 11 kids play every game, play decent minutes every game for varsity. So we want that with our middle school kids too. We want them working that way. But I think that's the first thing we want. We are looking for guys that want to build relationships with the kids and want to help kids get better and hold kids accountable, and not just say, hey, we have a good team this year, so I'm going to coach these seventh graders really hard. Oh, we don't have as good of a team, so I'm just going to junk it up and hope we can luck up into some wins.
Right. He's a great answer. I love asking this next question because I just feel like we learn so much more from the mistakes than we do from the successes, unfortunately, in life. But what's something you did, you've done along the way that you thought was a mistake, or you wish you'd have handled differently, or something, that somebody can learn from? Because, Lord knows I could be on here another hour telling you about ones I made.
Sure. Gosh, 16 years of this, the list
Yeah.
is really long. I think the one that I'm becoming more aware of now, and I guess this is the best way for me. The one I am actively working on remedying more often is fighting the urge to correct and just let the kids learn to self-correct obviously within reason, but don't stop it so much. And sometimes that's in the middle of a game. Sometimes that's in practice. It's just backing off and letting the kids figure it out.
Yeah. Coach on the run.
Yeah, that's me. And I want to, we're all every coach that I know likes to be in control on some level, some more than others. But I think the one that I'm really working on is if you can't give control over, and obviously that's different, every sport, and you go back to how does this cross multiple sports? That might look a little different in basketball than it does in soccer, because you're not calling plays nearly as much, right? And obviously baseball, and I've coached baseball, I've coached golf, coached track. I've coached a little bit of all of them. With team-wise, the more you can give ownership to the kids and kind of get out of the way, man, the growth, their growth potential, how quickly they can handle things, their ability to handle adversity, all those things improve if they're not looking from you for the answers all the time.
Absolutely. I think that there is some truth to that. Some of the intricacies are different for sport on that, but the common truth there is if kids can, if you can kind of learn that your message will get stale the more you use it, that is going to be true everywhere. So whatever sport you're coaching, if you're just going to constantly yell and say the same stuff over and over again, even if you're right, they're going to eventually tune it out. So the more they can figure stuff out on their own, or you can kind of guide them in that direction, that's going to be true across the sports, no doubt. Well, obviously you got a good job, Coach. You've done a good job. I've heard some good things about you. I was on some basketball coaches earlier today that were excited you were going to be on too. So, you've been a successful head coach. What would you have told yourself 13, 14 years ago or so that you wish you knew then that you know now? What advice do you have for somebody aspiring to be the head
That's a
basketball
good
coach?
one. Yeah. What could I tell 23-year-old me? I think the biggest thing that I would want, this is a great question. Trying to articulate my answer. Be comfortable not knowing.
Yep.
I think that's it. When you're young, I was younger, I was so afraid to not have an answer,
Mm-hmm.
and because I would, my credibility would be gone.
Yep.
And you realize, no, if you can tell those guys that you screwed up or that you don't have the answer, and that, being comfortable with not knowing it all, because you're never going to. But I think when you're 23, 24, or whether you get into coaching into second career and you hop into it mid-30s, whatever it is, it's okay to be, because you're being honest with your kids. When you're like, guys, man, I totally screwed that up. Or guys, I don't know that I have the answer to this, but I'll tell you what, we're going to work hard and we'll figure it out, or I'll come back to you with it, give me a couple of days. And that's something I've learned in the classroom too, and
Yeah.
I'll have a kid throw me a great curveball of a question, and as opposed to give some half answer that's probably partially right, but doesn't really help that kid learn anything, you go back and say, I tell you what, I'm going to go find out and let's talk about it tomorrow. Hold on to that question. Well, in the sport coaching world, I think it's, as much as that's also an answer about continuing to learn and wanting to grow, but I think it's also just about humility of saying, I don't have all the answers, guys, and we'll figure it out as best we can.
I think that I hope we've helped somebody along the way today with all this, but honestly, if you're new or old, hell, I'm 42 and I'm not 23 and I still need to hear that. So if you haven't heard much else we said, you need to rewind about the last 2 minutes and listen to that again, because I'm telling you that saying the phrase, I don't know, or, hey, let me get back to you, is way more powerful than you think. It really is. Just don't lie to people. Nobody expects you to know everything. Just say, I don't know. Hey, I don't know. Let me go find out. I think that is such good advice that none of us knew when we were 23. But, it's okay to not know. And I'm telling you, I still don't know sometimes. Somebody asks me, I'm like, I don't know. Let me call somebody and ask. And it just, when you quit being worried about that, you actually become a better coach and a better teacher and all the other things too. But it is okay to say, hey, I don't know, but I will find out for you. And then actually find out for them, be a man of your word and don't blow them off by saying you don't know. But it's okay to say those 3 words. I don't know. I can't tell you how, as an AD, I was an AD and then I was a district AD. I can't tell you how many times I would have loved the coach to have said, I don't know, instead of what they actually said. If they just said they didn't know, you can't get on to them for that. But instead, they kind of try to halfway answer the question, and it makes it actually a harder thing to deal with than just saying, I don't really know. Let me find that out for you. So I know that we went down a tangent there that may or may not pertain to program development, but everybody needed to hear that. Nick Saban needs to hear that. Everybody needs to hear that. That, everybody can say, I don't know something. Let me check. Coach Krzyzewski doesn't know everything, and he'll be the first to tell you that. So, humble yourself, ask questions. Such a great advice there. Does anybody have a question or anything they want to ask Coach? I know we got some people on the listening in. If anybody's got a question, feel free to jump in or type it in the chat. And if not, we'll get Coach out of here pretty quick. Coach, tell anybody listening to this that may be listening on the replay, how they can find you on Twitter or anything if they have any questions or if they want to follow you and follow your team.
Yeah, no. Coach A. Griffin, no underscores or whatever, is my Twitter handle. It's about the only social media I'm active with. I don't really do any of the other stuff. We've got a basketball Instagram account, but I'm not doing that's just splashing up some pictures. Yeah, that's probably the best way. You're more than welcome to hop on Wesleyan site and give me an email at agriffin at wesleyanschool.org. I'm happy to talk about, what we do, like, from big picture stuff, cultural stuff, the development stuff. But at the same time, if, I'm happy to talk X's and O's and share whatever it is we do. And like the doc I shared with you last week, and, whether it's something we do on offense or defense, or you want to come to a practice, like, we'd love to have you.
Awesome, Coach. Well, I appreciate your time. We've been really fortunate to have some good guys on, and it's been really helpful. So if I can ever help you in any way, let me know. Love to get you on some other time.
Sure, Coach. I'm always happy. I'm talking, Coach, and this is my passion. My wife and I talk about all the time. If we can do one thing for our kids, is that help them find their passion and then really push them to pursue it. And we are both very fortunate to have found that in our lives. And so we have careers, not jobs. And so anytime I get to talk about this stuff, I am happy to share it, whether it's somebody who's, like we were talking about, 23 and doesn't have an idea of what they're doing, or 39 and doesn't have an idea of what they're doing.
Well, Coach, take care. Enjoy your quarantine. And if I can help you, let me know.
Yes, sir, man. Appreciate you having me on, Coach.